If I had to make $100 online starting from scratch, this is exactly what I would do. Now, I've helped thousands of complete beginners go from $0 to $100, sometimes in less than a day, just by following this process. There's no cold calling, no cold emailing, no awkward DMs to strangers. So what is the fastest and easiest way to make $100 online without an audience or an ad budget? What platforms or tools do you need to get started? And how fast can you realistically hit that first $100? Now, let's start with the one thing that most people skip and why that mistake keeps them stuck. So what most people will do when they want to start making their first $100 is they will either go after some kind of guru program that will tell them how to make money. And the irony is all that's done is lose them $100 or more. Maybe it's like $2,000 for the course. I mean, maybe you're watching this right now and you're kind of thinking, well, I want to start a bit of a side hustle. Where do I go? So I'll go to a guru who will tell me either crypto or drop shipping. That's still pretty popular. Or maybe some kind of like AI platform or something like that. And they'll spend $2,000 and you realize that, well, now you need to make $2,100 in order to become profitable again. Or what they will do is they will go immediately to some kind of product and they will think, I'm going to build something that I think will be really, really valuable. And maybe they build an app, maybe they build some software, maybe they build like some kind of platform. A lot of people try to build a community and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But the problem is history and the world and the market and the economy is filled with people who have built products that just don't sell. And the problem with this is actually you can have a really good product. Like in theory, you could have the number one product on the market in terms of all the features and how fast it is and how good it is and blah, blah, blah. And it just won't sell. And the reason for this is because both of these steps will only make you lose money over a long period of time. If you're serious about making money online and you want to start by making your first $100, what you need to do is this. We know that the process is you, the product, the sale, and the customer. Now, we don't need to worry about this one because you exist already. We don't need to necessarily worry about the sale because all that really requires is like a PayPal link or like some kind of checkout software like High Level that I use that has like all the stuff kind of built in. I think even Stripe has their own ones now. In fact, probably your bank has a way to be able to take payments, all right? So we know that going after the product is the wrong thing. So what we need to do is find this bit first. Now, this is difficult to do. And I don't think it's necessarily intuitive or easy, and it does require a little bit of leap of faith. But I promise you, unless you do this and get some way near to understanding who your ideal customer is, everything else is going to be exponentially harder. And the easiest way I know of to do this is by looking at these three circles. First of all, I want you to write out the skills that you've currently got. What are you able to do? What are you good at doing? What do you have skill in? So it could be anything from like copy, coding. That says coding, not coping, by the way. Maybe you're good at marketing. Maybe you're good at funnels. And maybe there's some stuff that you want to learn. You're like, well, I'm okay at video editing. I'd like to get better at it. But just put it down because I promise you, even if you are like a 4 out of 7, so a really good way of ranking your skills. We're going off on a lot of tangents here, I apologize. If you rank yourself from like the 7 is the best in the world, like a 7 film director is like Steven Spielberg, right? And a 0 is like Uwe Boll, right? You want to rank yourself like, where do you see yourself on this list? And you might say, I'm probably a 3, maybe. That's absolutely fine because you are still able to help 2s, 1s, and 0s. So you can actually help the largest portion of the market. So in terms of ranking your skill, I just want you to say, if you're comfortable with anything 4 and above or 3 and above, that's great. The next thing I need you to figure out is what kind of problems do those skills solve? Now, this is really difficult. This is where most people get stuck because when you go, well, editing solves the problem of editing. No, it doesn't. Editing solves the problem of getting engaging content out without loads of time invested. That's why I pick an editor. That's why I hire an editor. Who's editing this? Hey, Clarence. Editing solves the problem of time, right? And another problem is people don't make enough money. And you think, well, actually, with my copy, I can help people make money. Great. So I want you to think about what are the problems that you can actually solve? If you had to translate these skills into problems, what are those problems? And the next thing I want you to figure out is the who. Because you're going to be working with people, I'm afraid. I need you to think about, well, who are the groups of people or the types of people that I like to work with and that I can work with and I can help? And so you're going to go through this and you might think, well, I like working with YouTubers. I like working with podcasters. I really like working with people who sell like eco products. I like the idea of working with authors. And what you're going to do is you want to find something where your skills, the problems that you can solve, and the who all overlap. So if the who is, let's say, YouTubers, and their biggest problem is making money, do they overlap? Do YouTubers have a problem with making money? Yeah, probably. Great. Maybe they overlap. But it might be that you realize, actually, I don't have any skills that can solve that problem. Okay, that in itself is a problem. However, maybe you say, well, I like the idea of working with authors. I love the idea of helping them save a load of time, and I can edit. So all three of those overlap. That is a good enough place for you to start. And here's what we need to do next. And if you don't do this, you're constantly going to be wondering, why don't any of my products and services sell? And that's because you haven't done this. What I want you to do is go into your profiles, and you're going to do this. There's you. We're going to create a customer avatar, and I don't mean like write it out. I know it sounds really, really boring. Trust me, this is not what you think it is. And then you're going to create video. I'm actually going to search YouTube. I want you to choose a social media platform where you think that audience is. Let's say that we do want to go after authors. Now, I happen to know that a lot of authors are on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, fuck off Elon, or Blue Sky. A lot of them have gone over to. I also know a lot of them are on YouTube. I don't know, is there a specific author's social media platform? Maybe, probably worth looking into. I want you to create a fake customer and create a profile on whichever one you think is best. So if we're an author, maybe your name is Mark Killen, you're my brother, and we think, well, my avatar, I like working with authors, maybe their name is Jane Doe. So Jane Doe, you're going to create a profile for her on Blue Sky, and you're going to start following, well, who are the other authors following? Do they follow editors? Do they follow publishers? Do they follow writing software? Do they follow people like Save the Cat, for example, which is like a screenwriting process? So I want you to figure out, well, who do they follow? You are also going to then start following a ton of your ideal customers. Your avatar is going to be following a ton of like the people who basically sell to them. And then on YouTube, I want you to create another profile for Jane Doe. And I want you to find, well, what types of video content are they pushing towards this type of person? Now, I've actually got a research sheet designed that like splits all of this up, that makes it really, really easy to figure out where a bunch of your customers are. So if you head to sellyourservice.co.uk/research, you can actually get that sheet for free and just fill in all the information, and you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know there were so many of these customers available, right? Here's what we're going to do. You can do this in a day, by the way. If you really went for it, you could do this in a day. And what you end up with is your feed is filled with customers, okay? Your fake avatar is also filled with customers and vendors or partners, and the YouTube profile and platform that you've created for your avatar is also filled with copy and messaging. Here's why this becomes so powerful, because what we are then able to do is we're able to link all this out and say, okay, what are the biggest problems that these customers are facing? Now, I know previously we looked at some of the problems. In this case, it might be like engaging time. It probably is making money, if we're being honest with authors. And I can now say confidently, yeah, their biggest problem is making money. But because I'm now immersed in this world of authors and I'm being flooded with content and sales messages aimed at my market, it does two things. First of all, it does validation. There is nothing worse than creating a product for unicycle hockey player teams when you realize there's only about 8 teams across the whole of Europe. It's not a massive market. Basically to say there isn't anyone there. But what we're doing with this method is you're able to say, yeah, there's so much out there. I'm seeing different products aimed at them. I'm seeing how they sell to them. I'm seeing what the problems are that they solve. I'm seeing their price points. I'm seeing all of this information aimed at my ideal customer. So you're getting validation. The second thing is you're basically finding what we call as a market. So we all know the marketing funnel. The marketing funnel goes further up and further down than most people give it credit for. Everyone starts with traffic, and they then say leads, and they say sales. Now, there's a part under sales, which is profit. Anyone can sell $100,000 worth of content or products. It actually takes a really smart business to make $100,000 worth of profit. Above traffic is audience. Everyone says, well, where do I get more traffic from? It's like, well, you get it from your audience. And everyone says, okay, well, where do I get an audience from? You get that from your market. If you don't know who your market is, none of this can happen. The amount of people who come to me and say, hey, Mike, I've got this amazing product. I just don't know how to sell it. I'm like, okay, well, who's your ideal customer? And they go, people. Okay, that's not specific enough. I need you to tell me who your market is, and then we can start attracting an audience. Audience is found with content, ads, SEO. Traffic is then converted further through into those. Leads are when you have like lead magnets and, opt-in pages and this kind of stuff. So we're now building our market and we have validation. Here's the crazy part. This is why you can make money so quickly if you follow this. Like, we've literally had people do this by the end of the day. You take the problem, the result, the audience, and then you take what we know as a without and even. After all of this research, you will basically be surrounded with your potential audience. You will have 3 profiles filled with your ideal customer. At this point, you could now create a very simple message that simply says something along the lines of, hey authors, I've got a training video where I show new authors sell 1,000 books in a weekend without using Amazon ads, even if you've never sold a book before. You might have seen some other videos where I talk about this. I call it a T-Rex flare. What I really like about this method is that we call out the problem they've got. Because you've done all this research, because you've seen who they are, because you're in their world and you're experimenting with them and you're having conversations with them, you can post on your wall. This is what's really, really powerful about this. When you post on your wall, you're able to say, hey, here's something that I've got. And if people want to have a conversation with you, can comment, or you might even want to put like a link. And I'll show you what we could do with either of those in a second. The point is that this is the offer. You have figured out through all of this research, their biggest problem is they want to learn how to sell more books. Great, then let's help them sell more books, all right? One of their biggest kind of drawbacks is they're like, well, I don't like using Amazon ads. I think that's too complicated. Fine, then we'll say you don't have to use Amazon ads. And a lot of them will say, yeah, but I really struggle to sell books because I've never sold one before. Great, well then here's something else that calls out to your audience. So we have the audience, authors and new authors. We've got the problem, selling 1,000 books. We've got a result, selling 1,000 books in a weekend. We've got a without using Amazon, and even if you've never sold a book before. What you then want to do is do not build a product just yet. So in my experience, there's 3 levels to selling a product. There is knowledge, there is media, and then there's software. Now, don't get me wrong, software is extremely powerful. And I know of people who have gone immediately to this stage. They've built an app, they've sold it, and they've made a ton of money. However, what you will find is that it comes from a place of knowledge and then came from a place of media. For example, let's say that we have found out that new authors want to sell 1,000 books. Okay, that's their goal. If we have the knowledge to help them sell 1,000 books, then we are able to essentially coach them. Now, that is easily something that you could sell for $100. You could say, I run a 45-minute workshop where we'll help you figure out exactly how to sell 1,000 books. Go ahead and sign up to this PayPal link here. We'll have a conversation. I'll see if I can help you do that. That there seems like a pretty decent offer to me, all right? You run a 45-minute call, and you say, well, I haven't done it before, I haven't got any past testimonials, don't worry about that. If you're specific enough with your offer, people will say, that sounds really good, I'll be willing to take a chance on it. And you can also do a risk removal where you can say, if by the end of the call you feel like it was a complete waste of your time, then I will refund every penny. Okay, it's a really simple way. I've just told you how to make your first $100, by the way. It's just with a really simple PayPal link, tell them the offer, have a conversation with them. Sell them knowledge, sell them a 45-minute call. Once you've done that a handful of times, let's say 5 to 10 times, you will then have enough information to be able to figure out, well, what is the media that I can create? Because the barrier between knowledge and media is something called intellectual property. It's one thing for me to just kind of coach people and talk to them and give them a bunch of advice. It's a completely different process to say, well, I've begun seeing a pattern in helping people sell this first 1,000 books. So I've come up with a few worksheets. I've come up with a few exercises that you have to fill out. Take us earlier. I know to help you sell a $100 product, you need to kind of do this overlapping Venn diagram. I also know that in order to rank your skills, you need to go from 0 to 7 and put yourself in the middle, and that actually gives you kind of the biggest access to the market, or the access to the largest portion of the market. That is because I have sold my knowledge so many times, I've begun to see patterns, so I've created intellectual property, small little models and exercises and processes that are repeatable throughout the process that I can use with people over and over and over again. So that's the intellectual property that develops from selling your knowledge, from doing it enough. Then I can create media. So this could be books, this could be stuff like this, the free YouTube stuff. It could be a paid course, it could be a program, it could be like a consulting. The reason I have things like consulting and group programs under media is because typically it comes with something it's not just a conversation. It usually comes with like kind of backup material. If you've ever done a really big kind of flashy program before, you know that it comes with like bits and pieces. And then once you have a process, once you have steps that show people how to go through each individual stage, you can then create software. But the easiest way to create your first $100 is by essentially selling a 45-minute call or an hour and a half call, whatever you want, for $100 to help them solve that specific problem. Do not call yourself a marketing consultant. Don't call yourself a freelancer. The number one rule of selling marketing funnels is don't sell marketing funnels. What you want to do is sell the same offer that you were talking about on your wall. And the reason I like this, because you've begun finding friends and creating connections on your post, when they see it, it seems so much more organic and less pushy, and then you can start having conversations with people. Now remember, if you want this whiteboard, you can head over to sellyourservice.co.uk/whiteboard, and there's also the research sheet, which I'll also link below, which you can go ahead to. If you want to learn how to make $2,000 in a period of 48 hours, go ahead and watch this video here, where I go into this in a little more depth. I show you some test profiles, and I basically found out the singular way that I was able to make $2,000 on repeat every single weekend. I tested over 30 different methods. It uses this, it puts it on turbocharge. So go ahead and watch that video right here.